Hi, my name is Rebecca Marr, and today I will be informing you guys on the importance of news. So the news, it's a heavy topic right now, especially within the news, and it's because the news is always being attacked. I can say this as a journalist as well as someone who just looks at the news on our phones, newspapers, and TV. The one person who is vocally attacking the news almost every day is our president, Donald Trump. In one tweet I'm going to read, it says, "Dishonest media says Mexico won't be paying for the wall if they pay a little later so the wall can be built more quickly. Media is fake." As you can tell, that was retweeted over 19,000 times and liked over 79,000 times. That means there's actually people who are listening to him saying that the media is dishonest and there is fake news. And that's actually bad because the news is a foundation of freedom of speech and information that we receive. And it's important because the news plays important roles in our society, such as a watchdog and check on our government. Okay, so why our news is being attacked is one reason: focus on non-news. Right now, there's a fight for legitimacy and credibility of sources, and it's a two-way street. It's what people perceive and what media gives out. According to the Washington Times, reporters focus way too much on negative things, especially with this past election. An example would be what I received today this morning. I woke up to a breaking news alert from NPR, a trustworthy media source, saying that McDonald's tweeted a tweet blasting the president. And it was definitely not breaking news. As you can see, it says, "At real Donald Trump, you're actually a disgusting excuse of a president, and we would love to have at Barack Obama back. Also, you have tiny hands." Now, that shouldn't have been retweeted, trending on Facebook, and sent to so many phones this morning as a breaking news alert, because that has nothing to do with news. And this is why news has such a very incredible reputation. As a journalist, you're supposed to report things that are newsworthy. The definition of news is to report information that the society needs. This conveys nothing to your average citizen. And also, a great news source doesn't have a side, and this clearly is bias. Okay, so why news is really important? It's much more than information. It's how we shape our lives, how we shape our students, how we shape our children. Whatever we receive is what we give out. A metaphor that is really good that talks about shaping our beliefs is education. So going through grade school, middle school, and high school, you learn certain things. And you take that information and that kind of changes who you are. So an example would be, throughout school, I learned about the executive branch. I learned about their roles. And in college, I applied that to my law class. Now, what if I learned everything wrong about the executive branch, and I just went through high school and I went through college, and then my law professor finally said, "Becky, this is wrong." I wouldn't believe her because I was taught a certain way. If your news is wrong, and you go through your whole life thinking one way, it's hard to switch. That's why it's so important, because it lays foundation. What news should actually do is provide information about our local government. For example, we just had our district commissioner race, and we just elected 3 people to represent Gainesville. This is really important because they decide on taxes, they decide on education, they decide on things that affect our daily lives. News is also important because it tells you about breaking things like weather or news. So if a storm causes power lines to go down, you should know that readily, real fast, and accessible. And if breaking news happens, such as the Pulse nightclub shooting. When the Pulse nightclub shooting happened, we, as journalists, let people know that you could donate to blood, or that you could find out if people were safe. And these are things why news is important, because we have to know these things. We need to know if our loved ones are okay or how we can help. So it's also our fundamental right, and this is found in the First Amendment. First Amendment ensures 5 freedoms: freedom of religion, speech, press, petition, and assembly. The law basically ensures that the media will not be censored or controlled by the government. It recognizes that we have a duty to serve to society. We have to check on the government. We have to tell people about the candidates. We know everything about Hillary Clinton's emails because as citizens, it was our right to know. According to Governing with the news media as a political institution, and this was my peer-reviewed source, The news has certain duties. As I've mentioned before, it has a duty to be objective, to be fair, not biased, keep tabs on the government, provide information on candidates so we know who we are electing, and inform the public if information may affect them. And just to conclude, I can't say it more, the news is important. It shapes who we are, and it's our fundamental right. As American citizens, we receive the right to know everything. Our lawyers, our Supreme Court justices have fought for us so we can have information. And it all goes down to being informed. And as Lester Holt said at an award ceremony a few months ago, we have to do our jobs because they say the best revenge is doing well. And we will do well by reporting the news the way they teach in places like this. Attribute, source, go where the facts lead us. Tell our audiences what we know and what we don't know, and never be afraid to ask the hard questions. So that basically encompasses why we need news. Do you guys have any questions?
In your opinion, what's the most important thing about news?
For it to be truthful and factual. Because as I said with the metaphor, if it's false, you're leading someone astray.
How does someone know if it's real or fake news? Like how can I tell
Well,
the difference?
sources. As journalists, we know we have to attribute everything and we have to have backing behind one statement. So, just your reasonings. Are there any other questions?
How do you convince your audience that you're telling the truth and that you're not fake news?
It's about gaining trust. So people believe Lester Holt because they trust him. They believe Dave Snyder because they trust him. And it's all about having credibility and having legit news. So if a source like President Donald Trump tells you that this is fake, and there are people who trust him, they will believe that. So that's why having our credibility is so important right now. That answers your question.